Hello and welcome to day 12 where I'll be making a tri-fold window card. So this is the card here. I decided that I wanted a window that you could see completely through into an inside panel that you then flip open so you can see a section to write inside your card. So I started with a normal side folding A2 size note card that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and then another one that has one side at 4 1/4 and 5 1/2 and the other side is just 1/4 of an inch longer. So the reason that I'm doing that is to allow for the extra thickness of the 3D foam tape. So I scored the card in the middle and then again 1/4 of an inch over, so we just have that side seam there to allow for that extra room. And I'll glue those pieces on top and they'll fold up like this. Okay, so I'll start by cutting the window into the front panel, and I'll be using this striped patterned paper that I thought looked a little bit like wallpaper for this window. So I wanted it to look like the kind of inside of a house looking out to outside. So I'm just taping down that die, and I ran that through my die cutting machine, and it cuts out these 4 window panels as well as the inside slats of the window. So I'm using that piece to line up where I'll cut through the card base. And I just run that through again, and I'm just keeping both of those inside pieces. So I'm going to glue down the front panel, that striped panel, to the outside of the card. I'm just lining that up and gluing that down with some Tombow Mono glue. Once I've got that all glued in place, I'm going to take some score tape. I'm just going to stick that around the edge of the window, and then I'll be able to put down some acetate. If you don't have acetate, you could just use some leftover packaging or a page protector that you've cut down to size. So once that's glued in place, I'm using my quick stick glue pen to apply some glue around the white inside window panel. And I'm just going to lay that on top of the acetate. I decided to glue that onto the top of the acetate to make sure that there was nothing inside the shaker section that would kind of disrupt the movement of the sequins that I'm going to add. So just place an acrylic block on top of that while it dries. And then I've got this panel here that I'm going to use for kind of the outside of the house that I've just cut the same window panel out of. So we've got a kind of hole right the way through the front of the card. Again, I've just applied some score tape. And then I'm going to put some more acetate over the top of that, and then again just glue the window insides to that acetate, and this time I'm using the section that was cut out of the front panel of the card. So again, once I've got that in place, I'll set that to one side with an acrylic block on the top for it to dry, and then I'm going to come in with this Scotch 3M kind of 3D tape to create some depth so there's some space for the sequins to move around inside. So as I'm sure you can tell, I'm still suffering with my cold. I've still got kind of man flu voice, so please do bear with me. Just cutting that down to size, making sure that all of that section is filled in. And then I'm applying these gold sequins from Pretty Pink Posh. And I peeled off the backing of that tape, and then I decided that actually there's not very much inside this shaker card, and nobody really likes a sad and empty shaker card, so I decided to come back in with some sparkling clear sequins, again from Pretty Pink Posh. And I believe these are the smallest size, and I just added some of those to the inside as well. So that's where I was just looking, and I thought actually maybe this is a little bit too empty. So I just grabbed some more of those sequins and just sprinkled those inside. I just made sure I could see the center of that cross by moving those sequins so I could line up the panel directly to make sure that those insides of the window on the front and the inside of the card matched up perfectly. Okay, so that's the front section of the card all done. I'm now going to glue my second card down. Now you don't have to use a full card for this. You could just create kind of a small hinge rather than having a full 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panel. But I decided that as this is going to be quite a heavy card and quite thick, I wanted that back section to have that little bit of extra kind of security and stability. So now I'm just going to glue down another piece of patterned paper that's cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and this is going to be for the outside section that you kind of look out of the window to. So I've cut down just freehand a curved design, which is going to be the snowbank, and I just used both sections of that cut line for a hill in the background and a hill in the foreground, glued those together, and then glued those to the card. So I'm not going to be using any extra dimension on the inside of the card, as I don't think there'd be room for it with just that 1/4 inch seam on the side. So once that's stuck in place, I put the whole thing inside of my MISTI, and I'm using the fancy swirly tree stamp, which I used in my last video, from So Susie Stamps, and I'm going to ink that up in Onyx Black ink, and then just press that down. So the reason that I'm using my MISTI is because there is some dimension to this with the different layers of cardstock, and I wanted to make sure that I got a really nice crisp impression, so I could ink that up once and stamp it down and then ink it up again, and I knew that because I was using the MISTI it would stamp down in the exact same place. So once that's done, I decided to use the windowsill section of the window die from My Favourite Things, just to cut out a window ledge from that same pattern paper, and I'm going to use some 3D foam tape that I've just cut to the right size behind this panel. So my head kind of got in the way during this section, so there are a few edits in this video. I think I was having a particularly difficult day with my head getting in the way of the camera, so I've just stuck that down with some 3D foam tape, and then I'm going to take the Merry Christmas sentiment, which I believe I got from the most recent Simon Says stamp kit, the December 2015 kit. So I'm just heat embossing that with some gold embossing powder from Martha Stewart, and that's the front panel of the card all finished. So now onto that inside panel on the right hand side, I'm going to use some more stamps again from that Simon Says stamp kit. I'm going to stamp this guy down. There's been a bit of debate online as to what he is, whether he's a cat, a dog, a squirrel, a gerbil, whatever he is. I think he's really cute. So I've just stamped that little critter down. I've added the parcels on top. And I'm then going to take the Happy Holidays sentiment and stamp that down in the middle of the centre panel, which will be where I write my message to the recipient. And again, I've just used the VersaFine Onyx Black ink for all of that stamping. So now I've just sped you up a little bit, and I'm going to be using, I think that was IG1 was my first colour, and then IG2. And then for the stomach section, I'm using GG1. For the scarf, I believe I used DR1, and I then also used the same red on some of those parcels off to the side. And all of these colours are from the Spectrum Noir alcohol ink markers. I then added TB1 to the parcels, so I had kind of some red and some blue. I then decided to create a background using IB1, and I just scribbled some of that colour all over the background to get some kind of nice blue, and then went in with the colourless ink blender to add some snowdrops. Okay, so that is essentially the card finished. I did decide to go in and add some more of those gold sequins on that tree panel. I think these trifold cards are really nice to make, as you have kind of 4 different card panels to work with, and you can have 4 completely different card designs, or you can try and link them all together like I have, with a scene going from the inside of a house to the outside to the tree, and then somebody kind of maybe coming up the path with some parcels. So thank you so much for joining me. I've really enjoyed sharing the 12 Days of Christmas card series. I'll be taking a short break now, but I look forward to seeing you all again in the new year. Please do make sure you subscribe so you'll get notifications when I start posting videos again, and I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Bye for now.